All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we're looking at this really fascinating and kind of complex argument that comes from a single source, and it all centers on this pretty mysterious sequence of four numbers: 13, 19, 91, and 239. So the source poses this central puzzle, and honestly, it sounds almost impossible, right? The question is, how could just four numbers possibly connect something like planets, with language, and even the future? I mean, that's the core mystery we're going to try and unpack here. So the sequence kicks off with a number everyone knows, a number loaded with symbolism: 13. Next up, the second number in the chain is 19. Then we get 91. It's a bit of an oddball, maybe less familiar, but trust me, it's absolutely crucial to this whole thing. And finally, we have the big one, the keystone that the entire argument hinges on: 239. So there you have it. Those are our four numbers. The big question is, where on earth does the source even start to link them together? Well, the whole thing starts in the stars. Seriously. The source material grounds its entire argument in what it calls the Great Cosmic Clock, kicking things off with good old-fashioned astronomy. And here's where it gets really interesting. You might think it's about the big 20-year Great Conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And yeah, that sets the stage. But the source claims the real key, the structural lock, isn't the conjunction. No, it's a lunar cycle happening within it, the metonic cycle. And this is the first big aha moment in the source material. It breaks down this cycle into something it calls the moon spine. So check this out. First, you've got the whole cycle, which is a 19-year shell. Got it? 19. Then, to make sure the lunar and solar calendars don't drift apart, an extra 13th month gets inserted 7 times during that period. And what do you get when you multiply those insertions? 7 times 13 gives you 91. So boom, just like that, from one single astronomical pattern, we get our first three numbers: 19, 13, and 91. Okay, so park that idea for a second, because this is where things take, a pretty wild turn. We're about to jump from the vastness of space right into the structure of language, and a coincidence the source claims is just impossible. The argument zooms in on the Japanese character for love. It's pronounced I, and if you count the strokes it takes to write it, you get 13. There's our first number. But then the source does something else. It applies a simple code to the Latin alphabet, A equals 1, B equals 2, etc. In that system, I is the 9th letter. So I becomes the number 19. And what happens if you just flip that? IA becomes, you guessed it, 91. And this is the moment where you're supposed to lean in. Look at this incredible parallel. On the one hand, you have the moon spine from astronomy that gives us 19, 13, and 91. And on the other hand, you have this sign pair from language that gives us 19, 13, and 91. The same exact numbers. The whole point the source is making is that these numbers pop up in two totally separate fields, each following its own internal logic. But wait, there's more. The pattern isn't done. The source says this same exact sequence shows up a third time, this time in the world of sacred geometry. Yeah, according to the source, these numbers are just baked into these ancient forms. The fruit of life, that's made of 13 circles. The flower of life that you've probably seen everywhere, that's 19 circles. And 91, turns out, it's the 13th triangular number in mathematics. It's presented as yet another layer, a third totally independent confirmation of the strange numerical signature. Okay, so now it's time for the final piece of the puzzle, the big one, 239. The source presents this number as more than just the end of the line. It's the keystone, the one number that supposedly locks everything together and closes the loop. Now, this part is a little dense, but it's totally fascinating. The source argues that 239 isn't just one thing. It has two different faces that exist at the same time. First, you've got the calendar face. Turns out 239 calendar months is almost exactly 19.92 years, which is a dead ringer for that 20-year Great Conjunction cycle. Then there's the anomalistic face. If you measure 239 times anomalistic months, that's a totally different clock based on the moon's gravity and its closest approach to Earth, you get about 18 years. So it's like one number telling time in two completely different ways. And just to make sure we get it, the source says, and I'm quoting here, they are not alternative computations, they are simultaneous readings of the same numeral through different clocks. That idea of two things being true at once is at the very heart of what's being claimed about 239. So how does this actually close the loop? Let's walk through the math for that calendar face together. Stick with me here. Step 1. 239 months is 19.9167 years. The source then takes that tiny decimal part and converts it into hours, which comes out to about 58 hours. Next, you just add the digits of 58 together. 5 plus 8 equals 13. A final step adds up some other decimal bits, which gives you 6. And the grand total? 13 plus 6 equals 19. It comes right back to the beginning. Okay, but what about the other face, the gravitational one? The source does a similar kind of math. The 239 anomalistic months calculation gives you 3 slightly different year values. You add those up, you get 54.10. Then if you collapse that number, basically just adding the digits, you get 9.1. Now remember our alphabet code? I is 9, A is 1, so 9.1 reads as IA, which is our number 91. And just when you think there can't possibly be another layer to this, the source drops one final bombshell. Using that same exact alphabet code, B is 2, C is 3, and I is 9, put them together side by side, and what do you get? 239. The source claims that the acronym for Brain-Computer Interface, BCI, has been sitting at this numerical address the whole time. So all of these threads, they all lead to the grand finale, what the source calls the closed return. The full circuit is about to be revealed. And here it is, the whole thing laid out. You start with 13, 19, and 91. Those numbers lead you to 239. Then 239 acts like a bridge. Its two faces break down and point right back to 19 and IA, which is 91. The claim here is that it's a perfect, self-contained, closed loop. So, what do we make of all this? Is it some breathtaking, hidden code that's woven into reality itself? Or is it just a really clever trick of the mind, a masterful case of finding the patterns you want to find? The source itself says this is just a beginning, not an answer. So I'll leave you with the same question. What do you see?